Number one, Stormy Daniels, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Uber leftist Bragg. The city is in chaos because of him. Statistics. He took office on January 1st, 2022, last year. Okay? From that time to November of 22, 11-month period, Bragg downgraded 52% of all felony arrests. That means the police arrested somebody, they were charged with a felony, it went to Bragg's office, he goes, nope, downgraded. Either threw it out or downgraded it to a misdemeanor. 52%, okay, compared to 39% in the year before Bragg took office. So you can see this guy doesn't want to prosecute many people. He lets heavyweight heroin dealers go out on no bail. He lets gangbangers with a rap sheet a mile long caught with loaded pistols out on no bail. This is not a responsible human being in any way, Alvin Bragg, in my opinion. Okay, so he's charging Donald Trump with a felony for allegedly paying Stormy Daniels money to keep her quiet. 90% of high-profile human beings, male or female, would have done the same thing because they don't want their families embarrassed and they don't want their businesses harmed. Remember, anybody can make an allegation about anything. Just want it to go away. Bragg knows that, and Bragg never would have charged this case unless Donald Trump was involved. Never in a million years would this man, Alvin Bragg, have brought that case. And he still has not defined what the felony charge is after all this time. And he says, I don't have to until the discovery process. Makes me angry because I know it's corruption. That's number one. So this is political here. Let's go to Atlanta. Fani Willis, Fulton County. Okay. She has charged Donald Trump with 13 felony counts to try to illegally overturn the Georgia vote. Not just in Atlanta, but all of Georgia. So, where is the Attorney General of the state? That's his purview. Fani only has jurisdiction in Fulton County, one county. So, I went on News Nation with Chris Cuomo last night and said this. Go. Do you know how many counties there are in Georgia? Do you know?
No. How many?
159. Do you know how many district attorneys joined with Fani Willis in this action?
0.
Okay. Interesting. Now, jurisdiction, she has it in the Atlanta-Fulton County area.
Yes.
Does not have it in Cobb County. Doesn't have it in Savannah. Doesn't have it anywhere else. But who does? The Attorney General of the state, who should have brought this case because it is a statewide case. The alleged fraud, the alleged racketeering did not just happen in Atlanta. It happened all over Georgia. But not one district attorney from any other of the 158 counties would join with her. That should raise every red flag in the world. Okay? That logic is irrefutable. And a lot of these counties in Georgia have Democrat DAs. Nobody signed on. So, the only conclusion that a fair, rational person can come to at this juncture is this is political, just like New York City. Here's what Jonathan Turley said about it. Go.
Willis seems to have charged everything and everyone, and is allowing God to sort them out. You look at this indictment, and every call, every tweet, every speech seems to be a separate criminal act that composes this conspiracy. That raises really troubling questions as to the criminalization of the challenges to elections.
Now, we went over that in a historical sense with Thomas Jefferson, Aaron Burr, John Marshall. It's a message of the day. You can access it on BillO'Reilly.com. Okay, so the two so-called local beefs against Trump undeniably political, in my opinion, and I think I backed it up to the extent. Cuomo didn't have anything last night. He couldn't refute it. He didn't agree with it, but okay, you believe what you want to believe. All right? Now let's get to the feds. So, Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, all right? Now, he's been maligned on the right. He blew the case of the former governor of Virginia, McDonnell. And he's a zealot. I mean, he's going to do what he's told to do by his boss, Merrick Garland. We all know that. Nobody challenges that. So Smith's whole case on January 6th, his entire case, is that Donald Trump knew he lost the election of 2020. He knew it. But he tried to overturn the election anyway. That's his whole case. Now, the key witness to that case is Vice President Mike Pence, because Trump wanted Pence to go in and delay the electoral count certification. We all remember this. That's what happened on January 6th. All right? Pence would not do that. Now, if Pence would walk into discovery, where he's under oath, and say, Trump told me he lost the election, but wanted me to stop it anyway, Trump's then convicted. But Pence goes on NBC News and doesn't say that. Go.
I looked through the process. I was determined to hear the objections that Republicans were planning to bring, Chuck, and many did bring.
Right.
I mean, you remember Democrats brought objections to Electoral College votes in 3 of the last 4 elections that Republicans prevailed. There's nothing unusual about that.
None of it, right.
But I did ask the parliamentarian.
Under the law.
I did ask the parliamentarian very directly, Chuck.
Right.
I asked her because I was hearing rumors. I was reading in the newspaper that there were alternate electors. I asked her point blank.
Was anybody in the White House telling you this?
Electors from any state? And she said there was not. I don't recall that. I just remember hearing it in the public. And I wanted a definitive answer whether or not the parliamentarian had received any additional electoral votes. She had not.
Okay, once again, was anybody in the White House telling you this? I don't recall that. That's Trump's strongest point. Now, somebody told Mike Pence, hey, we know we lost, but we want you to go in there and boot it anyway, delay it anyway, so we get fake electors in there. And Trump is guilty. And so are all the people who would have advised him to do that. But that's not what Pence said publicly. So is what Pence going to go back now, an evangelical Christian under oath, and counter what he said on Meet the Press? I don't think so. Now, I'm not trying this case, I'm not doing that, because Smith may have other evidence about his assertion, allegation, that Trump knew he lost and took illegal steps to negate the election. He might have had something else that I don't know about. But if it's Pence, he loses. Smith loses. Okay. Mar-a-Lago. I'm going to give you a timeline because I'm getting a lot of mail from pro-Trump people telling me that Mar-a-Lago is nothing and this and that. So I'm going to give you the facts, and I'm going to put them up on the screen, radio. I'm going to read it slowly so you can make your own determination. The whole thing started on May 6, 2021, when the National Archives requested that Donald Trump return some classified material. A month later, the archive warned Trump that it would refer the matter to the Justice Department if the classified documents weren't returned. And the archives told Trump which documents they were looking for. So they gave him a month, then they warned him. All right. 7 months later, Donald Trump returned 15 boxes of documents. But it took him a long time. 1 month after that, February 9, 2022, the archives, apparently dissatisfied with what was returned by Trump, referred the matter to the Justice Department. Now, the archives had to know that if you refer this to Merrick Garland's going to charge. They had to know that, just to be fair, okay? March 30th, the FBI opens its investigation, all right? April 26, less than a month later, a grand jury investigation begins. Now, that's pretty damn fast. But Garland wanted this. He wanted to charge Trump. Okay? Hunter Biden took 5 years. This took a month, okay, for the grand jury to be convened. 5 years for Hunter Biden, 1 month for Donald Trump. Come on. Okay. Then the raid at Mar-a-Lago. And documents are found in the raid. All right, it was a warrant signed by Judge Bruce Reinhart in Florida, and they seized 102 classified documents in that raid. So this is a legitimate case in Mar-a-Lago. Trump and his lawyers have to explain why, after all of this, and they had a year and May 6th, 2021 to August 8th, 2022, 15 months, and they still had 100 documents classified in Mar-a-Lago. They got to explain that. Okay? They have to. Now, again, in discovery, maybe they'll say whatever they're going to say. Trump declassified them. They could say that. They could have backup for that. I don't know. But this is the only one, as a reporter, that I can see presents a threat to Donald Trump. Now, will the kangaroo court in Manhattan and Fulton County and Washington, D.C., and it is, there's no doubt about it, they convict of anything. But on appeal, when you have federal judges looking at the whole thing, that's why Governor McDonnell, Smith's case was thrown out. Smith got a conviction on McDonnell for taking illegal gratuities while he was governor of Virginia. But Supreme Court, boom, threw it out. It wasn't even a close case. That's what's likely to happen here. And most of the indictments, I think there are 91 now, against Trump, will be thrown out before it even gets to court because some of them are so stupid. Okay. So I think I've gone over this about as methodically as I can possibly go over it. I took 15 minutes of your time, but I think it was well worth it. Now, again, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com. But you in your living room or in your car, wherever you are listening and watching me, okay, you can believe what you want to believe. And that is your constitutional right, just as Donald Trump believed that the election was rigged, that he won. Constitutionally, he can believe that. That's not a crime. However, if you want to really be an honest person, you have to look at what is on the record. And you cannot speculate about anything until you know all of the evidence, and we don't yet. But if I had a bet, if I was a Vegas guy, I'm going in and saying 3 out of these 4 are bogus. The Mar-a-Lago thing, dangerous. So the Supreme Court has got to find a way in to this whole thing, or as I said, every vote is now going to be polluted by political prosecutors. This is very interesting. 2 of the most outrageous partisans on the Democratic side did the same thing that Trump did. They believed the election they lost was flawed. First, Stacey Abrams of Georgia. Go.
I acknowledge that former Secretary of State Brian Kemp will be certified as the victor in the 2018 gubernatorial election. But to watch an elected official who claims to represent the people in this state baldly pin his hopes for election on the suppression of the people's democratic right to vote has been truly appalling. So let's be clear. This is not a speech of concession, because concession means to acknowledge an action is right, true, or proper. As a woman of conscience and faith, I cannot concede that.
All right, Ms. Abrams did not commit a crime because she believed what she said, that the vote in Georgia was suppressed, and she lost because of it. Okay? The same thing that Trump believed. How about Hillary? Go.
And so I know that he knows That this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me, and I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience.
I never acknowledged that she lost in 2016, ever. Ran around the country saying she didn't lose. Same thing. Now, Trump took it a step or two further by discussing with state officials the state of the vote. He's allowed to do that. He was president from Election Day to Inauguration Day. He was allowed, Donald Trump, under the law, to look into what he believed was voter fraud. It was allowed. So all of these cases, with the exception of Mar-a-Lago, I don't believe are going to amount to anything. They'll either be thrown out or, it's just not going to be there. Mar-a-Lago, he did it. That's the one I would get out. Get that out. Because the Supreme Court is not going to come in and say to the Justice Department, you have to knock out the Mar-a-Lago thing. They can't do that. Supreme Court can't go into the states and do it either. But if Trump can get the Georgia thing into federal court, then the Supreme Court can. The Supreme Court can't interfere with state justice. But if something's unconstitutional, then the Supreme Court can go right into the state and say, hey, knock it off. Very, very, very complicated. Three verys. All right. But again, I'm making a prediction. Supreme Court's going to have to get involved with this, because if they don't, then this is going to just blow up our voting process. And that's a memo. All right, let's bring in one of the smartest guys on the political scene. He's a Democrat. You've seen him before on the No Spin News, Doug Schoen. He's got a new book coming out called Four Presidents, Kennedy, Nixon, Biden, Trump, Leaders Who Changed History in Changing Times. So you can pre-order that book now anywhere. So where am I making mistakes, Doug? Am I going wrong here somewhere?
What I think with January 6th, where Trump has some additional liability, is the whole process of certifying the result. I think that the charge that I thought, Bill, on January 6th was the whole notion of what Trump was asking Pence to do and Pence refused to do. I think that charge is also a serious one. I worry, though, I must tell you, I worry about the Georgia prosecution for the reasons you do. The idea of using a RICO statute against the president and 18 other people, however misguided they may well have been, what this says for our democracy, and you made this point, Bill, and it's the point that to me is most important. If this goes forward in the way that it could, our democracy could be finished. It could be irrevocably changed. That's my greatest concern.
Yeah, and that's everybody. Charlie said the same thing. Anybody who loves their country and is not a partisan, crazy person knows the danger that this will lead to. But I'm gonna challenge you on the January 6th thing.
Sure.
That whole case by Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, is predicated on Trump knowing the election was lost and doing it anyway. That's what the charges are predicated on, okay? Pence is not going to say that. I thought he might. But in a television interview over the weekend, he was asked point blank on NBC, did the White House tell you to do this? And he goes, no, I don't remember that. So if Pence goes in and says, hey, Trump got bad legal advice from John Eastman, and he really believed that the Constitution allowed me, the vice president, to stay the electoral vote count, then that's Trump's opinion. It's not a criminal act.
Yeah, I'm not sure Pence will go that far, but you could well be right, Bill. We shall see. This is one of those issues that, not in short order, but eventually we'll see whether I'm right or you're right.
Okay. So advancing the story now, I think it would be safe to say that most Americans, after these 4 indictments in different places, are thoroughly confused. They don't know what's happening. They don't understand the alternate electoral vote people. They don't know all they know is that whatever side they're on, okay, is right. They don't know anything else about it. And, I just see the destruction of discourse, of debate, of different points of view, all blowing right up in front of our faces now.
Well, that's exactly right. We live in a country of two narratives, the Democratic Party narrative and the Trump narrative of election fraud and malfeasance and the like. And the idea that these two universes can peacefully coexist, given what's happening now, is less and less likely, and more likely what you're saying, Jonathan Turley saying, and what I've just said could well be the result, which, by the way, has implications for our economy and for our foreign policy.
So now I think Trump is strengthened in a short term.
Sure.
Nobody knows what's going to happen in a year. Nobody. But he's strengthened because the MAGA people, they're going to go out and vote for him. They don't care what he did.
Correct.
They're there. And a lot of the independents, the smarter ones, are saying, this, and when you compare it to the Biden treatment from the Justice Department, the independents are going, we don't like this corruption. We don't like this. So even though we don't like Trump, we're not voting for the other side. And that helps Trump as well.
It does, and it also helps Trump in the primary because the Republicans and those Republican-leaning independents say, we may not be comfortable with Trump, we may not want him, but the way he's been treated is so outrageous, we're going to vote for him just because we think this is all a raw deal. So I think there's a lot of...
But there's one more factor. The people voting for Trump now know that if Trump wins, he's going to get the bad guys, going to come after the bad guys.
Well, that's the other side of this that you haven't mentioned is when you compare the way Trump's been treated now with 4 indictments to the kid gloves for Hunter Biden and potentially Joe Biden. We just don't know. It's two narratives that are very hard as a fair thinking person to reconcile. I mean, and picking as a special prosecutor, which I think was overdue, the guy who had the case for 5 years, that didn't make a lot of sense to me
It's
either.
insane. It just, Merrick Garland now, is downgraded about 10 points in my estimation. I don't even think he's a smart man. I don't even think he's smart because doing that, it just signals, look, we're doing it because we don't want Weiss testify in front of the congressional committees. That's why we're doing this. And Weiss booted this whole thing top to bottom. Couldn't have done a worse job, but we're going to give him more power to do an even worse job. I mean, even the dimmest Americans are going to go, what is going on?
Well, the judge in the Hunter Biden case made it clear what his real exposure is.
Yeah, sure. Right.
The FARA violation, which sent Paul Manafort to jail. It seems to me like it's a prima facie violation by Hunter Biden of that statute.
Absolutely. And we're going to get to that statute you mentioned. Last word, last question. I can't predict this. And you know me, I'm a big mouth, a bloviator. I have no blanking idea what's going to happen in the next 6 months. I believe Biden's going to be out of office by Christmas, but I can't back that up at all other than watch his deterioration. And I do know this to be fact, that when September and October roll around, those Republicans in the congressional committees are just going to launch everything they have, spurred on by Fani Willis and her pals going after Trump. Last word.
I think we're in uncharted waters, Bill. I think for 3 reasons Biden could not be the candidate. Could be Hunter Biden, could be issues of mental competence, and it could be poll numbers. I also think there's the possibility, given these indictments and how unprecedented it is, that for some reason that we don't know today, Trump could well not be the candidate. I think he more likely than not will be. But this is a world of banana republics. This is not a world of the world's greatest, most stable, free democracy. I am profoundly disquieted and saddened today, as I think most Americans should be.
All right, Doug. Thanks again. The book, upcoming book, is Four Presidents, Kennedy, Nixon, Biden, Trump, Leaders Who Changed History in Changing Times. So everybody should pre-order that book. I mean, obviously, you want to get ahead of this deal. Thanks again, Doug. We really appreciate it. Right. Thank you.